Check 1, 2, going live. Happy Friday. Let's see here. Am I crooked? Happy Friday, everybody. This is really kind of an important live session today. Today we are going live the day before the book, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, comes out. Now, this is the first, I should say it this way. This is the last version of my first foray into authorship. You see, back in 2019. So back in 2019, I started to notice a lot of people doing stupid things in the cold and having terrible, terrible outcomes. And as a result, I chose to write an ebook, and it was just a really simple ebook. It wasn't anything special. Actually, I modeled it after Juji Mufu's ebook I had bought like 6 months earlier, which was like instructions on how to do the splits. And it took you like through all the different permutations of how to do the splits. And so that's what I originally modeled it after. Now it has changed epically. And so the content you're going to be able to access tomorrow is more than just, hey, this is the science behind cold training. Yes, the science as I believe it behind cold training is in this book. But the biggest reason I wrote this book is because it gives you instructions on how to cold train well. And I would show you the book, but I train athletes, and today I was training some athletic. What are they? They're competitive jujitsu martial artists or athletes, and so I wanted them to have a copy of each of the books. And so I gave them the books. And so now I don't have any copies until a little bit later today when the next book arrives, so I can do signed copies. So if you're interested in the signed copy, that will be coming out soon. And I am excited to share that with you. So today I'm just going to be answering questions. I'm going to be going over what's in the book. And I don't have a whole lot of time to be on this live, to be honest. Because I have an ice bath waiting for me out in the back, and I'm going to do some filming. But I want to give you an idea of what's in the book and what you can expect. So first and foremost, there are lots of books about cold training out there. This is not a new topic, and cold training is something that, especially since I wrote the very first version of this ebook, it's really exploded. It's taken off, and you can get all kinds of junk information everywhere. In fact, a lot of the information that I see, so I recently joined a bunch of Facebook groups just to see what kind of questions people had. I wanted to see if the book was still relevant. People are still asking the same questions. And so if you're new to cold training, or if you are not new to cold training, this is the book for you, because it takes you all the way to, like, I have an interview with Joseph Coburl. He's the guy who wrote the foreword for the book. And he's the guy who he's broken the world record twice. So it's got a little bit of something for everybody. The primary goal is to give you detailed instructions so that you can keep all of your toes, so that you don't go to the hospital, or that you do go to the hospital if you need to. When is it time to go to the hospital, right? And honestly, nobody was there to tell me this. I trained with Wim Hof. And, this was the sort of thing that was kind of glazed over. And right now there's a lot of kind of internet gurus out there. There's a lot of voices that you hear. And like, for instance, one of them that I keep hearing his name all the time is Gary Brecka. And, I'm not an expert in all the areas that he claims to be an expert in, but I am certainly an expert in cold training. And I can tell you, he is not an expert in cold training. There's so much just kind of rah nonsense out there that a book like this is important. So this book covers the basics of not even really the basics. It covers some of the in-depth science. So over the years, my understanding of cold training has changed. I used to be like a lot of people who believed that cold training was this cure-all, and that, hey, it boosts your testosterone, and it does, and it cures, arthritis, and it makes it so you're never sick again, right? Good old Wim Hof, he talks about take a cold shower a day, you keep the doctor away. And then you catch a cold and you realize that that's not true. And so this is a really measured book that covers how cold training really works, how it is safely applied, and how to make it a part of your life that you can just consistently keep going back so that you're not overdoing it. So, overdoing it is really easy to do in cold training. And I know this because I've been cold training for 12 years. And I've had frostbite, I've had after drop, I've had hypothermia, well, mild hypothermia. Multiple times I've had mild hypothermia. There's a few times I should have gone to the hospital. Just let's just be honest. I should have gone to the hospital. But anyway, so I wrote this book. I gave my last copies to some athletes that I trained this morning. And I didn't realize I didn't have a copy for like the launch night. So I literally don't have a copy of this book right now, which is kind of irritating. I have copies. So here's what I'm going to do. I should be getting my book, my box of books today. I do have copies. I have 15 copies just on hand of my first book, A Practical Guide to Breathwork. What I'm going to do is if you email me and you want to, you can just buy A Practical Guide to Cold Training directly from me. I will mail it to you. I will sign it. And I'm also going to sign this one, and you get this too. So you get both books, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, A Practical Guide to Breathwork. All you got to do is email me. You just go to my website, jessecoomer.com, and I'll send that out to you. And it'll just be $25, which is the price of the book. And then I charge, it depends on where I have to send it, because I do have to charge shipping. But if it's in the United States or thereabouts, if it's on this continent, it's usually just like $5 or $10. And then if you're in Europe, it's usually like, it's unreasonable. It's like $20 or $25. But hey, you do get two books. Both of these books normally cost $25. So, so there's that. So in the new book, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, I cover how to do frost walks. And one of the things that a lot of people don't really don't do well with is skin to ice kind of exposure. So I guide you through all of those things. I guide you through the clothes you should wear, the different ways you can change clothes outside, all the things that you honestly, you won't think of until you do it. And then you're like, oh, I really wish I would have known about this before. That is this book. It is basically from a guy who's been doing it so long that I've ran into all these weird things that have happened. And I'm like, okay, you want to take a polyester, don't take a natural fiber with you. Like, it's down to those kind of details. And I just give you instructions on how to do all these different things, how to progress. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know how to do is progress colder and colder. So, okay, so how cold is too cold to start with? And a lot of people I think the most common question you'll get when it comes to cold training is, how cold is cold enough, right? How long should I stay in? A lot of these basic questions. And then you go to the Hubermans and things like that, which I'm not bad mouthing Huberman, but a lot of it, like they have the Soberg principle, which I'm actually not convinced of. I went through a dalliance with the Soberg principle, but I really am not convinced of the Soberg principle at this point. I am not convinced at this point that I am convinced that brown fat is activated. I'm convinced that it exists, and that that when you cold train regularly, that you can start to activate brown fat more, and you can start to even increase your stores of brown fat. So I am convinced of all those things. But when it comes to a lot of the rah about brown fat activation, it dates back to the 70s, whenever people thought it could be used for weight loss. And I'm not really convinced of that. So I go over the kind of where I am on the topic of brown fat in the book. And then the cool thing is, if you get the book, you also get the digital content. So it's August right now. It's the end of August. This right now, okay, September 1st in my book is the beginning of cold training season. And it's warm. It's still very warm here in the Midwest. It's very warm in most of the Northern Hemisphere, but this is the perfect time to start your cold training. And that is because you want to start really gradual, and you want to start getting more and more adapted as the season goes on. the thing about cold training, a lot of people jump straight into the ice bath, and I'm cool with that, pun intended. Nah. But I am also a fan of gradual adaptation. And that's whether you're doing weightlifting, whether you're, I don't care what it is you're doing, gradual adaptation is generally going to be the one that's best for long term results. So if a person's wanting to get into cold training as a lifestyle, as a way to hopefully have a happier, healthier life, gradual adaptation is the way to go. And so if you're starting cold training and you're starting it in the, even in the summer, that is a great time to start, because you can start to get some adaptation whenever the stakes are really low. Like right now, it's insanely hot. Right now, it's the end of August. It's like 90s Fahrenheit here in the United or here in the Midwest. So you can take a cold, you can do a cold plunge or an ice bath. I'm going to take an ice bath here in just a minute, and you can get out, and it's not like you're really having to fight any other weather, right? So one of the biggest reasons why people have frostbite is not you're not going to get frostbite in the ice bath. So frostbite is not the thing that happens to you in the ice bath. Frostbite is the thing that happens to you because you got out of the ice bath and the wind started to blow. And you didn't notice because you kind of got numb. And that's the thing about frostbite. You don't generally notice that you're getting it as you're getting it. It's just that it starts to happen. And then you notice it later. Wow, this burns. This really hurts. And it's changing color. That doesn't look healthy. And so and so the goal here of starting cold training, the reason why I'm releasing the book now and not like in the dead of winter is just for that reason. I believe September 1st is the best first day for the cold training season. And then you just continue to train beyond that. And this is coming from 12 seasons. This will be my 13th season to train in the cold. And yeah, I'm so ready. And the thing is, this summer I've been traveling a lot and I haven't had a chance to do a lot of ice bathing. To be honest, I'm not as adapted as I would like to be at this point. I'm not as adapted as I was whenever I finished writing this book. I finished writing this book in December of this year, of last year. So I finished writing this book in the dead of winter when I was very cold trained. Right now, over the summer, I've lost some of that adaptation. I still take cold showers, but they're not that cold in the summertime. I still do cold plunges, and I'm going to take an ice bath. And I've taken ice baths this summer, but it's one of those things where I've just traveled a lot for what I do for a living. I have to go to where the workshops are and the retreats are. And that means a lot of times I don't have access to a cold plunge. I don't have access to an ice bath. And so as the seasons are turning, I'm really looking forward to this because it's going to be it's going to be an opportunity to lean in. And I might as well just announce it right now. I'm moving to Chicago. So I'm moving 5 hours north of where I am right now. So I'm in Southern Indiana right now, and I'm moving to Chicago, which is, there's a lot of snow. There's a lot more ice. So a great opportunity. And I'm going to be jumping into Lake Michigan with the Chicago Cold Club. So the Chicago Cold Club, actually, I mentioned them in the book. If you don't know about them, they're led by Katie Tomaszewski. Katie Tomaszewski, she's faculty at the Language of Breath. Hey, I'm actually wearing the t-shirt. Hey, Language of Breath. She's associate faculty at the Language of Breath Breathworker School. And so she helps me teach our new students. And she also runs the cold training club. If you certified in Language of Breath, I teach you how to train people in the cold. No, I don't teach you how to make promises that they will live forever and that it'll cure cancer and it's going to cure the common cold and all these things, because really at the end of the day, that's promising too much. That's not really an ethical promise to make. But I will say, yes, you probably will get sick less. You probably will have less inflammation. Like I've got 2 torn meniscuses and I do not need I don't take any medications. I haven't done the surgery or anything like that. I'm just fine. So there's so many benefits to it. The primary benefit being the mindset. James, how's it going, James? He says, hey, Jesse, I hope you're good. I use your YouTube videos daily, especially the 6-minute guided cold shower. I'm so glad to hear that, James. That is something that maybe we're thinking about making some more guided cold shower sessions on the channel and throwing those up there, especially as the winter months come on. just as a way to kind of encourage that. I'm going to be adding possibly one of those tracks to the Patreon club. If you're in the breath club, here's the thing. So over the years, we've realized that hyperventilating doesn't really help you in cold water. It doesn't really make cold water any easier. So we used to think, okay, so Wim Hof method, and you breathe and you're hot, and it really doesn't help that much. In reality, when it comes to ice baths and cold training, we do know though that your breath is really important. And so when I train, for instance, I designed a program that's been adopted at the Indianapolis Police Academy, and we put the cadets into ice baths, but it's not because we're trying to make them healthier and boost their immune system. We're doing this to show them the efficacy of the breathing techniques we've just shown them in the seminar. So we're saying, okay, when you get into the cold, this is an incredibly stressful situation. Let's learn some techniques, some breathing techniques, and then we're going to throw you in an ice tub, and then I'm going to ask you to recite the Indianapolis Police Department, whatever the code of conduct or whatever. I think the credo, or I forget what they call it. And no one can do it whenever we first put them in, right? Everybody's freaking out, and we're okay. Now, apply the breathing techniques we just showed you, right? And I go over those breathing techniques in the book. The book has the breathing that is the best for cold training. Ultimately, the greatest gift that you can give yourself with cold training is learning how to develop calm in the face of a overwhelming stressor, because that's what the cold really is. The cold is by design. Our hypothalamus will always see cold temperatures. Anything that challenges homeostasis, okay? Anything that challenges homeostasis, it will see that as a possible threat. And it's going to start making changes to your nervous system, your circulation, and your overall outlook in life as a result. And this is why, even if you're if you're at the office, this is a classic thing. If you're at the office and it's just a little too chilly, they've cranked the air conditioning up a little too much that day, and you're just sitting there, and maybe you just ate and you're just like, man, I feel just kind of cold. You're going to have a worse outlook on the world than if you were in a nice, easy, 72 degrees, Fahrenheit. And that's simply because your hypothalamus, so part of our unconscious processes, will see these as potential threats, and it will see them as things that could ultimately cause harm. And so it's going to start ramping up your sympathetic nervous system. It's going to start making you see the world in different ways. In fact, now this isn't just for cold. This also happens for heat. But it makes you want to, there's like built-in strategies that our species has for avoidance. So we don't think about it, but you'll notice that people just naturally gravitate to the shade, right? On a hot day. And they haven't really done the math, but it's just, some people maybe have thought about it. Well, let's see, the shade is over here and the shade is cooler, and I don't want to, but it's just there's these natural things that we've inherited over the centuries and over the ages. And these are built in. And so the ice bath is the same way. You put a person in an ice bath or a cold shower. James doing the cold shower. I'm proud of James. I appreciate that, James, because we were debating on whether or not to make some more of those. And I'm glad you said you use it. So prepare for more. Prepare for glory. So, ultimately, when it comes down to the cold, there are built-in programming to our hypothalamus that makes us want to have avoidance behaviors to cold. And this will affect you on a unconscious level, and you'll start to notice, well, okay, I'm behaving, I'm breathing in a certain way, or I'm moving in a certain way, or I'm not breathing or behaving in a certain way. But ultimately, these are built in, and it's just part of being a human. And this is why cold training is so helpful. Another big reason why cold training is so powerful. And again, yes, there are some physiological benefits. I'll tell you what, one of the biggest physiological benefits, and then I'm going to get back into the mindset thing, because ultimately your mental health is the primary, in my opinion. After 12 years of doing it myself, after training literally thousands of people in it, and now I have my own certification that I train people to do it with others, I've done a lot of research, okay? And I've seen a lot of horrible reactions in the cold. I've seen a lot of wonderful reactions in the cold. I've seen a lot of stuff. And what I'm saying is the mental fortitude, the fact that you're showing yourself. You're not just telling yourself with okay, and self-talk is really helpful, but you are literally showing yourself, I am a person who can make a difficult decision on command. I have the ability to do something that I really don't feel like I want to do. And because I, even after 12 years, I still am like a little hesitant getting in, right? There's always that little bit of like, it's not anywhere close to what it used to be, but it's still a little bit there, right? And I mean, if you're into cold training, you know what I'm talking about. There's that little bit of, well, it would be nice maybe maybe today I'll skip. But you show yourself, I am capable of this. I am a person who can make a difficult decision and I can do this. And that is something you cannot intellectually prove to yourself. Quillman, good to see you too. Thanks for being here today. Tonight is book launch. So as of midnight tonight, the book, A Practical Guide to Cold Training, Breathwork, is already out. I actually have copies of this book. I stupidly gave away all of my copies of my well, okay, it wasn't maybe stupidly. I'll have to look again. Maybe I'll find another copy or two. So here's the thing. I gave a copy to every single person who's certified with the language of breath. Breathworker School this year, all of the returning alumni got a copy. And so I've given a lot of copies away to people, and I forgot to keep one for myself for the night of the launch. So I'm going to scour the house. It's like whenever you're trying to find your keys, maybe I left one of the copies around here. Actually, you know what? The UPS guy is literally right here. Okay, we're going to find out. So stick around. I'm pretty sure the UPS guy is about to, if he delivers a book or a box of books, I will open it on air. Okay. And I'll sniff it and I'll tell you if it has that new book smell. That's what I'll do. That's exactly what I'll do. And it looks like he's backing up over here. I live on a dead end, or like you can't drive all the way through. It's great because my son can ride his bicycle. Oh, dude. Oh, I've got a good feeling about this. I've got a really good feeling about this. Are you guys ready? Okay, I'm going to show you. We'll do an unboxing of my book, literally on air. So cool. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Is it my books, or is it going to be like my wife bought like something that is as heavy as books? We'll find out. Let's see here. Take a look at this. Take a look at that. Here it is. All right, I've got a whole box of these now. Woo! That was close. I mean, I was actually really feeling stupid. So, okay. So here it is. Fresh out of the box. A Practical Guide to Cold Training. And then at the very end of this book, there is a little part. I'm going to flash it real quick. Okay. And that will take you to the digital bonus content. And in the digital bonus content is I'm creating just basically a digital, it's like an online course where I take you through all of the different things that we do. So it's like, oh, I forgot to smell it. Yeah, it doesn't really say. You're right, Quillman. It doesn't. I mean, there is a certain sweetness to the fact that, hey, this is the book that comes out tomorrow. And I wrote it. And I mean, there's a lot of words in here that I had to type all those words. But yeah, you're right. There's, I've heard that there was that with library books or older books, if you smell them, there's like a little bit of a little fungus that might give you a little happy feeling that grows on those. I don't know. That was what the librarians told me whenever I was in grad school to be an English professor. But here's the thing. This comes out tomorrow, and I've got to tell you guys though, the Kindle and this will be out tomorrow. The audiobook is a little bit delayed. So the audiobook might not come out for another week. I know. I'm sorry. But I got to say, the audiobook turned out really, really well. Like, I didn't read it, but I did find someone to read it who did a fantastic job. Like, and this book actually does a great job. It lends itself to audiobook really well, even though it has a lot of instructions. Like, for instance, like there's a whole, like, okay, so for instance, there's like ice bathing in nature and ice bathing indoors. And okay, and then if you would like to swim in the ocean, meditations in the snow. And like I even have, look at that, a little diagram of myself here doing a meditation in the snow. That's whenever that was before I really got into occasionally I manscape a little bit. So judge me what you want. I mean, that's a pretty mean chest hair, right? I mean, that's a rug. That's a real rug. That's like, I was earlier, much earlier in the days of my cold training experience. Let's see, what else do I have here? Actually, I have one here. There's a picture from, I was out in Colorado and it was just insane, but picture didn't turn out incredibly well. maybe I ought to, I don't know, maybe I'll do a different, of course you don't buy it for the pictures. Anyway, so there's all kinds of stuff. Paul, I was wondering when you'd show up. So here it is, guys. You missed the box unboxing. A practical guide to breath work, a practical guide to cold training. And what I'm going to do tomorrow, and you might find me on Instagram. I might do a live here, but my family's going to be home for Labor Day weekend. So when my family's that's why I don't do lives later on at night, because my family's here and that's family time. It really sucks because in the United States, this is when most people are at work. So I don't really get, so I don't always get a huge audience for these lives because a lot of people here are, hey, I don't blame you. I used to be at work before I was a breath worker and an author. Is there going to be a practical guide to heat training? Ooh, the answer is yes. But I'm going to go ahead and just let you know. I'm just going to let you know. Next year, a practical guide to breath work will turn 5 years old. And I'm actually considering updating it with a complete second edition. Now, what would be in that second edition? In the last 5 years, or really in the last 4 years, there's been a huge shift in the world of breath work. You find the jackasses like Breath Masters and it's mostly 9D breath work. If you've seen this, and then there's a lot of other ones that have just kind of gone off on this thing where the more you scream and the more I have to poke you and the more I have to, like, it's like there's like some kind of magical touch I have to do and I have to rub and I have to, and you have to scream and all this, which is total garbage. There's been a proliferation of that, but there has also been a proliferation of some fantastic breath workers and some amazing voices in the world of breath work. My buddy, Mike Mayer, he's blown up. If you don't know about Mike Mayer, he does an amazing podcast and YouTube channel, Take a Deep Breath. He and I are going to Costa Rica next year. If you want to come and just like have the best time, it's a breathwork focused trip to Costa Rica. And we're about to launch it. It's going to be in July next year. So watch for that. If you're not already on my email list, definitely get on my email list at jessecoomer.com because it's going to be amazing. And we know that the people that are coming to that, it's going to be good for beginners and it's going to be good for like intermediate, but we know there's going to be breath workers that come to it and they'll get a lot out of that too. So Quillman says, I have 8:30 p.m. Friday evening. So this is not, so this is not really let's see. So this is not really a good time too. So okay, so it's 8:30 over there. You're in Europe then, Quillman? Is that right? So yeah, so I this is the time where it's like, okay, it's before I have to pick up my son from school and it's after all the work that I do with clients. So, it's not the ideal time. I usually don't have a whole lot of people. You're in Poland. Okay, yeah. So, well, thank you for being here. So, it's usually like the worst time to do a live, but it's the only time I have. So, hey. So, it is what it is. Sometimes people watch the replay. I feel like I'd rather just do the live and do it at a bad time than never do a live. I actually have a lot of fun in these lives too. But anyway, so what's going to happen next year is a practical guide to breath work will be expanded into a second edition. There will be discussion of some of the best names in breath that have come out in the past 5 years. There's also going to be some discussion of some of the garbage that sadly enough, some of this garbage is the most popular breath work that there is. And it's the same thing that a lot of things. If you look at what happened to the world of fitness, like in the world of fitness, if the whole reason why we have the word clickbait is because of fitness. It was this one simple trick that you would do to lose belly fat. That was the original clickbait. It was this one simple trick to lose belly fat, this one simple trick that makes the fat just melt off, right? And they've done that to breath work. They'll say, in just one session, all of your anxiety can be taken away, or in just one session, you'll undo all the trauma, and it's like it's going to change your life. Just one session. And the reality is, with breath work, it's a way of this is where the language of breath, philosophy, where we are. But I really do feel. I mean, it's not just like I say this because it's language of breath. This is like what I firmly believe. It is a matter of learning how to communicate with yourself on a regular basis, learning how to form a better team with yourself, and learning how to be okay with how you feel. And that is not something that happens in a singular experience. And I'm sorry, but it's probably, most of my clients in the past year, not most, but I would say at least a third of my clients in the last year are trying to get off marijuana. We were all told about how marijuana was harmless and had no problems and everything. I have no problems with marijuana, by the way. And occasionally I will, I'll have a gummy or whatever. But the thing is, we were all told there are no side effects. This is nothing but good. And the reality is, it was clickbait. They're doing the same thing with plant medicine, and people are doing the same thing with breath work. There's so much good stuff in the world of breath. There is so much good stuff out there. But the problem is, in order to make a buck, in order to get your attention, people will make these promises and they'll twist science and they'll do all the things that make it seem like this is, man, I'm just going to do this. This is the secret. I found the secret. And let me say, I myself have found the secret many times. And every time it was not really, it was just bullshit. Like, I don't know how many things I have tried over my life where I thought I found the secret. And eventually I realized, okay, the secret is that we should look at ourselves in a completely different way. You know what? That's true. That's true, Paul. First of all, you're also right. It is true that it takes courage to do a live. And then it's also true that that I apologize for dissing on the levitation promise. Yeah. I wish that would be a good one. Well, and you got to understand the original. So if you've heard of rebirthing, or if you've heard of holotropic breath work, right? You have to understand the premise, the promises they used to make, right? So holotropic breath work was it really grew out of rebirthing. Rebirthing was sort of invented by Leonard Orr in his bathtub. And amongst many claims that he made, one claim was that if you lived your life like he basically said you should live your life and did rebirthing every day, you would have eternal life. Not spiritual, physical immortality. That was his claim. That's a pretty tough one. That's a pretty tough one. Both do Wim Hof method without pausing with a breath hold / equals done. Well, all I got to say is there's a lot of promises out there, and this is one of those things where people often get way carried away with the promises. They're trying to get your attention, and then the reality, the really gold, the really good stuff often gets overlooked. The stuff that actually works, because you have to work it. People overlook it because it's like, it's not as easy. It's not the one simple fix. And so anyway, so I'm going to be revising a practical guide to breathwork next year. It will be much thicker than this, and it will have interviews with who I believe are the best names in breathwork. And that's what I'm planning to do. But I'm also planning to do a practical guide to sauna, because sauna has become a huge part of my life too. And I'm so in love with heat training. So there's going to be a million of these. What my hope is that on your bookshelf, you'll have just these practical guide all the way down your bookshelf someday. And I don't know. And maybe we'll start. The thing is, maybe it's like a coloring book. Maybe maybe that's what I meant to do. It's like you color the book. It's black and white, but you get to color it. You get to decide. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for being here. This is a big day. And please don't forget to get a copy of a practical guide to cold training. It goes live as of midnight Eastern Standard Time. So that's all of August 31st is the live date. As of that, we have the practical guide to cold training in the print copy and the ebook. You can get that from my website. The audiobook should be coming out next Saturday. So that is the hope. Sometimes it's earlier. Last time this exact same thing happened to me when I launched a practical guide to breath work. But hey, it is what it is. If you would like me to send you signed copies, just go ahead and email me at jesse@jessecoomer.com. Just contact me, and you can get both of these signed for just the price of a practical guide to cold training, as long as supplies last. I only have 15 of those. And then, because here's the thing, I'm moving to Chicago, so I need to get rid of I have a bunch of copies of these, and I need to get rid of them. So this is awesome. Practical guide to raising teenage girls. I will pass on that. Mostly because I don't believe I'll ever have teenage girls. Right. As of now, I just have a son, and maybe that will be something you can write, Paul, and we'll collaborate on. Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. I hope you all have a great weekend. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on this book or this project. Or, hey, if you are looking to become a language of breath worker, this is a great time to reach out to ask any questions you like. So have a great Labor Day weekend here in the United States and a great weekend worldwide. I'll see you guys next time.